At this point in time, lots of people hate ReZero. Many people have dropped it, and people don't want to touch the series anymore based on what just happened. If you're someone that's new to the series or want to know the drama surrounding ReZero, well, let's dive into it. Now, for most of you that know, Arc 9, which is the latest arc in the ReZero storyline, started around a year and a half ago. And it seemed to be a really interesting arc. The entire premise is that Natsuki Subaru gets sealed away by Aldebaran. This leads to essentially a giant gauntlet of fights between Aldebaran and his squad of people, and essentially the entire ReZero cast. And no matter who Aldebaran goes up against, he seems to just always win, because of his power to essentially return by death. Whilst Aldebaran's exploits only really last a few days, in a real world time it lasted for around a year and a half, so around 460 days or so, and many people are not satisfied with the conclusion, even though, in my opinion, the conclusion was actually predictable, because I literally made a theory video on the conclusion, which you can see on screen now. So what actually happens? Well, if you've seen my previous video about ReZero has changed forever, I'm not going to really go into the specifics, but essentially Aldebaran pretty much beat every single person, and the only one really left is Petra, who is now the Witch of Melancholy, and also Felix Argyle. As you guys know, Felix Argyle is the strongest healer in the world, and as a result, Felix is healing Aldebaran, so Aldebaran cannot kill himself and return by death. Petra, who's the Witch of Melancholy, essentially sacrifices herself to Roy Alphard. Instead of Roy Alphard eating the name of Aldebaran, who was revealed to be Natsuki Rigel, he instead chooses to eat Petra, even if he will die, violate his contract with Aldebaran, and he burns to death, or at least he would do. The second he eats Petra Light's name, Reinhard, who's fighting the Witch of Envy, because of course Petra has learned about Return by Death from Subaru's Book of the Dead, because Petra has been removed from the world due to being eaten by Roy Alphard, the Witch of Envy goes back to sleep, and Reinhard essentially kills himself, which activates his Phoenix Blessing, which allows him to essentially respawn wherever he wants. Reinhard respawns on the battlefield and then kills Roy Alphard in one slash, and then proceeds to defeat Ye Tenzin, and then slash Aldebaran in the torso and extracts Subaru and Beatrice, which were sealed in an orb. Aldebaran explains that Ola Shamak is a very powerful spell, is a taboo spell, and you can't just break the orb. However, this is Reinhard, so you already know what's going to happen. Reinhard is able to pull out his legendary sword Reed and slash the orb and break it in two, and the reason for that is because inside the orb is Subaru. As a result, Subaru is deemed as worthy, so Reinhard can actually draw the legendary sword and slash him free. The second Subaru regains his, composure and starts to speak, he immediately calls out to Rem, and Rem launches her Morning Star at Subaru, killing him instantly, and this causes Subaru to return by death to before he got sealed, essentially undoing a year and a half worth of content. Subaru then immediately seals Aldebaran instead and does a Uno reverse on him, and essentially the entire Arc 9 didn't really happen. And a lot of people are not happy about this because of what was lost, and on screen you can sort of see a list of what was lost. So some of the things which you can read on screen, like I said, is Roy Alphard is still alive, he's still in the prison. The Black Serpent is still alive. Well, to be fair, it wasn't actually killed, it just retreated. Rem is still forgotten. So for those that don't know, Rem actually got her name and memories back because it was regurgitated by Roy Alphard. So now she's going back to normal Arc 8 Rem. Otto's memories are back, so he had amnesia because Roy Alphard ate him, so now he's got his memories back. Nobody knows about Aldebaran or Natsuki Rigel, and Roswell's future trial and Al Sextet did not happen. And there's many more things, but the main idea is that a lot of development was, of course, removed. A lot of confirmations, such as Felt being Flor Lagunica, And of course, sort of, for example, Reinhard being able to draw the dragon sword reed, the fact that Aldebaran doesn't like Subaru, and in his final exchange seems to sort of refer to Subaru as a shitty father, so maybe implying that Aldebaran is actually Subaru's son. To be honest though, I feel like anyone with a critical thought would have known that this would have happened. Because keep in mind, Petra was just eaten, Roy Alphard died. That means you wouldn't be able to essentially save Petra, because Roy Alphard is dead, and Speaker is of course, we all know what happened to Speaker. So she can't actually regurgitate memories or names. So it was pretty much a dead loop. Not only that, Aldebaran's aggressor mode essentially made most of the Felt camp and most of the Emilia camp brain damaged and mentally broken because of the permanent loops. So in other words, it was pretty much a guaranteed reset anyway, because Ram was affected, Garfiel was affected, Otto didn't have his memories anymore, Petra was a vegetable, so it was game over. However, despite all of the evidence towards that and predicting the Great Reset, a lot of people are not happy, saying that it's essentially just a cop-out. This idea that it was all just a dream, you know, and nothing really matters. And it was so bad that it actually went trending on Twitter. And it's not only the Great Reset, it's the fact that the Great Reset was achieved by Rem killing Subaru. Because Rem worked out that Subaru had returned by death, and Rem essentially conspired with Petra to kill Subaru so he could return by death and redo all of the events of the arc so that no one would be hurt. And a lot of people don't like this because the whole part of, for example, arc 4 is this idea that Subaru should value himself, should value his life. And then the second when something goes wrong, well, Rem comes along and just kills Subaru automatically so he returns by death. But to be fair, I mean, that is the whole point. Because Petra read Subaru's Book of the Dead, so Petra would have known that Subaru was going to reset anyway. In fact, we do know this. Tappei has confirmed that if certain people die, Subaru will reset. So he does value his life. But the second someone gets hurt, he will reset. I don't think that is bad of Rem to kill Subaru. In fact, the first thing that Subaru does when he gets unsealed is he calls for Rem's name, which is the signal for Rem to essentially kill him. Because the reason why is because Subaru was using Corleones to sort of scout the situation, so he knew what was going on. So if anything, he entrusted Rem to carry out the ordeal. So it's not that Rem is a bad person, because a lot of people hate Rem now. A lot of people despise Rem and Petra for essentially conspiring to kill Subaru. However, what do I think? Well, honestly, I don't mind it. I think it was actually really good. I mean, like I said, I predicted it months ago. Go check my video. I already sort of knew what was going to happen, especially when people started getting eaten, when Owl's territory made everyone mentally broken. It was guaranteed to have happened. The only thing I would like to see is Subaru and Aldebaran have that conversation to get the truth behind Natsuki Rigel. And by the way, can we talk about Tappei's foreshadowing? He's got some older level foreshadowing when it comes to Reinhard. If you go back to season 1 of ReZero, when Reinhard first sees Subaru in the alleyway, look at what Reinhard is doing. Notice how his hand is on the dragon sword reed. That's because when Reinhard saw Subaru, he knew that he could pull out the dragon sword reed on Subaru. So of course, Reinhard must have been thinking, why is this random bum worthy of the sword? And in fact, if you go to Tappei's Q&A, you can see that Reinhard's first impression of Subaru was really, really bad. And this happened years and years ago, all the way back when Arc 1 was initially airing. So this was a secret for how many years? Like 12 to 14 years? That's crazy.